Hello, it's Dr. Ray. Thank you for joining me on this webinar. This webinar is based on happiness and purpose. So in this conversation, it's going to be casual. You're going to see me look down because I'm looking at my notes so I can be guided also. And I hope that you're able to find a place where you're not going to be disturbed, that there's very little distractions. And this is not something you need to see all the way through, meaning that you have to see the entire clip. But what I would advise is watch the entire thing before maybe you do the exercises. Therefore, you're able to go through it again and stop the video and go through the different techniques I'm asking you to do. And also, this is something you can go back to because we're always redefining ourselves. I think we reinvent ourselves when we become conscious. When we become introspective, it is a process in which we are looking at where we need to grow. And ultimately, that leads to happiness, because if we're stagnant and just being the same way that we always are, then that's when we start experiencing boredom and there's no longer creativity in our lives. So why choose happiness first? So, most people try to get the job and they think they'll be happy, or they try to get the girl and that they will be happy, or get the car and that they will be happy. While there might be some enjoyment in the experience of attracting those things, happiness is a now moment. But at the end of the day, it's where most people are putting their happiness on a layaway plan. It's like, when I have all my ducks in place, then everything will be great. And you understand what I'm talking about, because I have been there. I mean, I still do that once in a while, thinking when these circumstances change, I will be able to get a massage, I'll be able to relax, I'll be able to just be with myself, when even during challenges, you can be with yourself. So when a person aims towards happiness, what it does is it kind of, in a way, forces you to be more conscious of what you're doing. That means how you're communicating to people, how you're interpreting experiences, whether it feels negative or positive. Happiness is your barometer. And I'm not talking about where you deflect something that's challenging, but it's that you go straight to happiness as far as where you would like to be. But when we choose happiness, I guess you say, through it being something that happens outside of ourselves, like, again, like a job promotion, then what happens when those things go away? Well, of course, then you become unhappy. So this webinar is about connecting to happiness, true happiness, and also your purpose. Why you exist, why you are here. The art of happiness is a skill set. It's not something that, like, after you watch this, you think, oh, Dr. Ray said this, and therefore I'm going to be happy. You might actually watch this video and someone pisses you off, and then you're unhappy for a while. So the goal is to learn this and assimilate it into your life experience so you experience more happy moments. And sometimes people ask, you seem to have it together, or how often do you have unhappy moments? Well, I would probably say I have, probably 85% of my life is pretty good. I mean, maybe sometimes it's a little more neutral. And then the others, sometimes they can go from just being, it's not going so well, to, or sometimes I actually experience things that are very challenging. However, I don't stay in the suffering. And also, when I'm going through the experience, just for example, I'm going through some life challenges right now, but there's also gifts in it. What I mean by that is I'm not depriving myself of life. Like, for example, you can actually say, your car could be like at the mechanics, and so you don't have a car, and you're having to ask people for rides, and it doesn't feel good because you feel like you're inconveniencing people. But in that moment, you also might have gratitude for the fact that you have people you can call on. So, the art of happiness is finding gratitude and happiness for what you have in any moment. And there always is light in all circumstances, no matter what. And even if you were, like, for example, you might think, well, there's other people who are suffering. Yes, they are. There are people who out there are suffering. I know this though, when that person who's suffering actually gives to another person, offers some type of value, that lifts that person up. That person might feel happy in experience. Also the receiver from that gift. So even in suffering, there could be happiness. Okay? So why is your awareness the precursor to true happiness? Well, the thing is, again, it kind of relates to what I just shared, is that it takes, I mean, for example, if you can meet someone who you think is a fabulous person, and their mind is more hooked on, like, they have to pay their bills, or, and you just say you're on a first date, second date, whatever it is, and you like this person's personality, but they cannot see themselves. They're also not aware of the fact that they're with someone who else is like in this very connective moment. So they're checked out. While the other person's having a happy moment, the other person's not even present. So this goes back to what I was saying about how your awareness to your experiences is the doorway to happiness, and it's a skill set. And I'll give you some examples. I had a client who had some challenges, real challenges, and I don't want to share them here. And I only saw this person once, and it was someone who probably wasn't a fit. She was obviously a teacher for me, and I tried to give her some really sound advice, but she had a reaction. She, I feel as though, was in denial and many other things. But regardless of what I think, she ended up writing some negative reviews, and she actually went to the extent of creating some fake profile names so she can, because the website kept removing them because they can tell it wasn't a legitimate review. And so she went on to create 4 or 5 more profile names to write a negative review. Well, I was on vacation when this happened, and a friend had taken me to the most wonderful, enchanted place where we were in the middle of like all these oak trees, and there was a jacuzzi outside, and I was just surrounded with just so much beauty. It was a very beautiful moment. We had music going on, and all I can think about was, because I didn't have Wi-Fi there, we were kind of in a very, I guess, isolated area where we didn't have, internet, which was a great thing. But in the lobby, they did. And I actually was going back to the lobby to actually counteract these negative reviews. And I had a very difficult time experiencing the joy. I did some exercises to clear my mind, to get centered. But I remember being in the jacuzzi and not really being there, and not really being able to be happy. So that's an example. Another one is I have had my business be slower at times, and I can think about, man, when am I going to get it together? Or it would be better if such and such, or I don't go out. And the reality is that I can be frugal, but I would not go out. I deprive myself of that, thinking, I should be working. Well, life is about balance, and when you bring love into your life, it creates, more money, more opportunities. I would shut myself down. So, I realized this, and I started having gratitude for simple things, such as being with a client. I work barefoot. Like, the joy of that. How many people would want to just kick off their shoes? Feeling happy that I'm able to have a conversation with someone who really wants to work on him or herself. What a joy, what a privilege. So I was able to experience happiness in that moment, regardless if my business was slower. I remember being with my friend Brandy, where we were working on, we were in a community and we were trying to do this event. And we were at dinner and we were problem solving. And we both stopped for a moment. And she looked at me and she just says, all is good now. And we just looked at each other. We ordered a glass of wine, and what we agreed on was that what we were trying to achieve in this event was consciousness, happiness. And in that moment, we were kind of problem solving and kind of not doing what we wanted to teach. And also, there was a sense of urgency. So we just stopped what we were doing, and just connected to the fact that all was good now. We were happy now. And it was a great way for us to check in, because the reality is that we were kind of, I guess, getting caught up with more what we thought we needed to do rather than really enjoy each other and the experience itself. So one thing to understand about happiness is learning how to become mindful, mindful awareness. What I described in those stories was that we became mindful of the experience. And I'm going to share a technique with you that we're going to do in a moment here about mindfulness, but I want to share a little bit more. So here are the key 5 principles of mindfulness, and that is being non-judgmental. You're not clinging to beliefs. You're not putting yourself down or the circumstances. You're just watching. You're being flexible. Non-reactive. You're not reacting to the situation. You're just observing. Here and now, meaning that you're being in a now moment, like I was with Brandy, having a glass of wine, talking about like what we wanted to do while enjoying that now moment. Introspection, and that is being able to describe with words of the emotions that you're experiencing. And it might not be necessarily the best emotion, the best feelings, but again, if you're being non-judgmental, it's the experience of like, oh, that's anger, or that is sadness. Just something very, non-judgmental. You are observing it and you're not reacting to it. And self-observation. You're able to see yourself objectively as a witness of your experience. You're able to, in a way, just imagine yourself watching yourself from up above. You're taking the higher road. This is a story I heard from Daniel Siegel in one of his lectures, and he talks about his friend who had been was rock climbing, and she fractured a couple ribs, and I guess she was reaching for something and she just pulled her body out. And in the experience, of course, rock climbing, if she were to judge herself like, oh my God, I'm stupid, or she would start become fearful and not breathing, something can lead to something much worse, such as death. What she did was she became aware of the pain. She became aware of her breathing. She didn't judge herself. She observed herself. She carefully came to mind of what she should do next to help herself, get to a safe place. But there was a lot of, I guess you say, discernment and openness of what would be the best thing to do. She wasn't judging herself. She was being mindful. Now imagine applying that to your life in circumstances where you feel like you're truly challenged, including maybe you're having some physical challenge. So this is an exercise that I would like you to do. The exercise is to learn how to observe and honor and let go daily transitions. And what I mean by that is, or transitions or transactions, is that what you're going to do is basically just observe. Observe watching the news. If you do, I don't watch the news. It has a tendency to have stuff that's negative, but you might watch the news. What if you can observe that without saying anything, that's bad, or oh my God, or projecting any feelings onto that? Observe that. Go to work and watch people maybe gossip, and be able to just stay in a very neutral place. How about if you're on Facebook? Do you look at pictures and you start having experiences where you think people are having more fun than you are, or they look more attractive, or whatever it is? What if you can look at it and see it as nothing? That would be an exercise that I would want you to start doing. You'd be surprised what's going to happen, because you're going to get to a place of just not being reactive to things. 2, which is an exercise that I want you to do when you have challenges, or when you're just looking at something such as Facebook or something else that might be triggering you, and that is developing tolerance skills, observing describing, and participating. And the way this works is, just imagine you had an experience. That would be your first what. You're observing. This is what's happening right now. Let's just I'll give you an example. All right, so say my brother and I are having a challenge, and we're not right now, by the way. And we're having, he somehow is not hearing me a particular way. He's raising his voice. Now, if I go into my emotional body, I might react towards him. I might raise his voice, and of course we end up having an argument. But what if I were able to observe, oh, he is raising his voice. What's going on there? Staying curious, not reacting to it, just watching it, observing it, attending to the event objectively. The second what, and that is describing, meaning just describing this is what's happening. This is happening to me. I'm feeling this way too. I am being triggered. That's the second what. And here's the third what. Seeing how I'm participating, and also recognize how I want to participate. In other words, just imagine those three techniques, or I guess you say the three whats. And that would be, I'm observing the tension between my brother. 2, I'm describing this is what's happening. This is what I see. This is what I recognize. I'm not attached to it. It's not turned into an argument. And then 3 is how am I participating? And then also how would I like to participate? Now, of course, if I'm in fight or flight mode, then I might fight. I might withdraw. But if I'm mindful, I'm able to participate and take the higher road. So that would be my goal. So here is a second exercise that I want you to do. Is now what I want you to do, just to practice this in your body, and I want you to close your eyes right now. I want you to think of something that might be giving you a challenge. Anything. It could be something simple, or someone, whatever it is, it's there. We're not judging it. Now, what I want you to do is apply the 3 whats to it. Imagine yourself observing it. You're just looking at it for what it is. Okay? Keep in mind, if your mind goes to judgment, how dare him, or this is so difficult, you're going into a reactionary place. It is for you to learn how to just observe. Then 2, describe. And when I say describe, don't go into the dialogue of like, this has happened because he, or she, or this. Just describe the experience. Describe the feelings. You're not pushing it away. I'm feeling this because of these circumstances. That's okay. We're not trying to fix it right now. We want to bring mindful awareness to it. The next one is, how are you participating? How are you participating? And how would you like to participate? Now just imagine, it would be very easy for you if you have been having this challenge for a while. It's where you might end up approaching it in a very aggressive way. You might, just through this process, doing this exercise, through whatever problem you have, you might realize how you actually really are participating and how you can attend to it in a much healthier, conscious way. So that is a great exercise and technique that you can do regarding any situation. So you can open up your eyes right now if they're still closed. Just take a deep breath in. Bring yourself back here in the room with me. Now, here's another one. It could be, I guess you say, an extension to what we just said or just shared, or you can actually think of something else. With the same technique in mind, and I'll go through the whole thing in a moment here, it's called future paving. And that would be where, just for example, you want to have a meeting with your boss. You want to ask for a raise. You feel like you've done so much. But you know, like inside, like he doesn't give many people raises. You have anger because you feel like he's neglected you, and that's even a reason why you're asking, because you don't feel like he recognizes you. So imagine going into his office with all that insecurity and frustration towards him. How well would it go? People feed off energy. So imagine closing your eyes, and again, imagine yourself to see, observe what is happening, like what could happen, no judgment. Describe how you might be feeling, how he might be feeling. 3, seeing how you participate and how you'd like to participate. And again, it would be for the positive outcome. That would be the goal of this. So that's future paving. So that's a great technique to actually work through something that you want to create a positive experience. So here's another exercise that's very similar to what I am sharing with you. And it's from Byron Katie. And it's a simple process, but yet you'd be surprised how many people have difficulty with it when they have resistance to letting go. So when you have a challenge, you're supposed to go through this process of, if you might say, he is a certain way, or if it were this way, it would be better. You are to challenge yourself, like literally write it out, or unless you get this memorized, and that is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? How do you react what happens when you believe that thought? For example, you might say, when so-and-so is inconsiderate, he just makes things really bad. That might not be absolutely the truth. Asking like, how do you react? You might get really angry because of this. The next one is, who would you be without the thought? Now imagine that for a moment. Like, more than often, you know, when we have a challenge, it is how we are judging it. It's like how it's going through our filters. But what if that thought were gone? Of course, you would not have the reaction. So that's when you do a turnaround. Now, you have a hand up to go through this process. I'm going to share just an example, and she's actually talking about her husband that she was having challenges with. Here would be the example. And she's going through I guess you say, the protocol here, and that is, Paul doesn't understand me. Can we turn around to Paul does understand me? Another turnaround would be that I don't understand Paul, to the third one, I don't understand myself. I mean, your turnaround could be a process in which you continue to just realize that the way that you are really viewing the circumstances is coming from a very limited perspective. So, you know, again, this process is not to deflect anything. It is for you to get to clarity, which is a precursor to happiness. The key to letting go of suffering is the art of allowing. It's also mainly the law of detachment. And I'm going to get into both, say, the materialistic world and also just relationships. And this is going to help you as far as connecting to your purpose and happiness. That more and often what we do is that even when people learn the law of attraction stuff, or people are on the spiritual path, they kind of go into it still with this kind of very dualistic mindset. This is good, this is bad. Or that because it's not turned out the certain way, I am not happy. That might not be a conscious motive, but it just happens. And so a person will hang on to it, you know, beat it to death, like it's not turning out the way that I would like. And that person's suffering. And what happens when you start suffering and creating anxiety around something you want that's positive in your life? Usually you attract more negative things. So even on spiritual pursuits, like a person wants to become enlightened, and he's trying so hard, usually experiences just the opposite, meaning that he meets the most difficult teachers, which might show up as neurotic girlfriends or controlling bosses, and he's thinking, this guy's such an asshole, or it's so difficult, and yet it's the only way that God or the experiences or life can teach him about enlightenment, because he thinks it's supposed to be given to him on a silver platter. So it doesn't matter if you're moving towards the goal. It doesn't matter how you're moving towards it. Meaning, if it's aggressive, if it's in very much like masculine mode and you're not able to let go, what can happen is that you just achieve just the opposite. So, suffering is usually created when there's discord and allowing ourselves to experience life itself, going with the flow. It reminds me of the saying that you never meet the same man twice. It's almost the same thing as you never can step in the same river twice. That whomever the man that life happens. He changes. His awareness changes. He might have particular patterns that you see him repeat, but he's still growing. And so more and often what we do is that we put people in boxes. We put things in boxes. And the reality is that there's always change. So in suffering, I'll give you an example. Because sometimes there's real suffering and physical suffering. I was passing a kidney stone. And actually, I'll tell you what, I was going through a divorce. And the interesting is that kidney stones, the spiritual belief or the metaphysical belief around kidney stones are anger. And I was releasing anger. And it was painful. Oh my God, it was so painful. And I have never really done self-hypnosis. What happened was I was lying in my bed. I didn't go to the hospital. And I was sweating, and I was resisting the pain. Then finally what I did was I just went into it. I wanted to feel the pain completely. I was taking deep breaths into it. I just went to complete surrender, and the pain went away. And I look at that now as kind of a metaphor for life and anything that's happening that I'm just struggling with, that I have to let go. And that helps me get to happiness. Another key thing to understand about all this, which ties to everything I'm sharing, this also ties into the conversation I mentioned about Brandy, is being in the now. What is the now? What's the power of the now? And what that is saying is that in every moment there's light, there's love. And when you practice when you practice awareness, and when you practice being in the now, you see things differently. And I'll give you an example. I want to read this to you. Have you listened to the sound of a mountain stream in a forest? Have you ever lost yourself in the middle of a conversation and felt the presence of wholeness? Have you ever seen yourself through the eyes of another whom you are making love to? Have you had experiences where it just feels so surreal, and you're just so present? It's that sometimes it happens when we become sick and we have epiphanies. And it might be when you're listening to a song. It might be when you're hiking. But imagine being able to be in the now during difficult experiences. So it's something to practice. And practicing the mindful skills helps you get more in the now. So why are intentions the navigating system to my soul and purpose? So when I look at intentions, the way that I look at them is that it's coming from a place from your heart, from your center, and that you could be pursuing something, an outcome. And when you start feeling anxiety, when you start feeling stress, for example, the story with my friend Brandy, then I'm not in connection with my intentions, my purpose. So intentions are a way for you it's like your barometer to see whether or not what you want is in alignment with truth, with love, or is it based in fear? If it's based in fear, you're going to feel discord. Secondly, you're going to attract more things that become obstacles in your life. So here's an example here. And when I wanted to get my doctorate, and it's funny how my mentor said, you don't need to go to school. You know a lot already. You're already a practitioner. But I had to do it for myself. And I did learn stuff, but what I learned more than anything else was life skills. I remember being in the program and reading my own books and everything else. But I wanted to basically get the doctorate because I thought people would respect me more. I thought that it would bring me more business. I thought that people wouldn't maybe question my intelligence. And what's interesting is that when I got the doctorate, while some things did unfold for me in a great way, there was a lot of challenges because my intentions as far as why I want to get it was more based in fear. And I don't regret it, but I did have a lot of obstacles that actually made me have to really grow up and find myself, find who I am, beyond having this diploma. And I'll give you an example, actually teaching. I remember at a law of attraction group, some professors showed up and questioned me about my education. And it's funny how my mentor never had that happen. And I heard other people have not had that happen. And because I didn't know if I were smart enough, or because I had fear of people challenging me about my credentials, well, what happened? It still happened. So, of course, my intentions were rooted in fear. So now what I've done is I've learned to really step back before I, attempt something, and I'm going to show you exercise to get really clear with that, what your intentions are, because your intentions should be rooted to your heart. Your heart is connected to your purpose, your path, why it is that you're here. So that is why when our heart is not into our job, we feel like slaves. When our heart is not into our relationship, we feel like we're just wasting our time, our lives. So our heart has to be into things because our heart is connected to why it is we are here. So here's an exercise that helps me and will help you get clear with your intentions. And again, some of these exercises you can pause the video and just sit with this, or I'll just continue. So it's up to you. So, and I'm going through these quickly, but it's for you to, this is a home study course, so it's for you to take your time. This is about you and how you learn the best. And so this exercise, just for a moment, I want you to close your eyes again. And we're going to get clear with your intentions. So the first question is, what do you feel will make you more happy right now? What would make you happy right now? And you might think, oh, get a better car, or whatever it is, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or something. And then the next one is your desire connected more to fear? In other words, is the goal to want to attract, is it to, what I mentioned, to compensate for something? And you might not know the answer for this. So the next step is to actually put your hands over your solar plexus, which is right below your heart, right there. And your eyes are to be closed. And imagine allowing golden yellow light entering your solar plexus. Breathing into that. Just really connecting to that. Allow your body to communicate to whatever comes up, especially if you need to alter your intentions. In other words, what you might experience is that this desire you have, for happiness is rooted in fear. It's a compensation. So we want you to get clear with your intentions, and they have to be rooted in your heart. That's a great technique. And what I would do is I would pull out a piece of paper and write out maybe the top 5 things that you want in your life that you think will make you happy, and what you're doing to right now to get there. And then sit with each item, each thing that you would like to experience happiness with, or that you want, and connect your solar plexus and connect your intentions and see whether or not it's connected to your heart, your truth. What you'll find out is that maybe a lot of your unhappiness is because everything that you're doing is fear-driven, or the reason why it seems to never show up in your life is because you keep sabotaging yourself. You keep pushing it away because how you're going about it is coming from a negative frequency. So this is a great thing to do to kind of go through everything that you're trying to achieve in your life. So I'd like to cover now is the 20 principles to attract the life that you want. Now, this is something that I believe in. It doesn't necessarily have to resonate with you, and I'll go through each item here and give you a little bit of my take on it. And so you are out of survival mode. And so in order for you to thrive, you need to be out of survival mode. Survival mode is just your primal needs met, and that's food, shelter. And of course, you have to have those things usually to thrive. But there are people out there who need very little. And something to be aware of, that how the brain is, that your brain will just do what it needs to do if all your survival needs are met. So that means conscious awareness, like going beyond that, is a practice, okay? You have a certain level of certainty about your life and direction. So you want to have some certainty. You want to know that things are going to go well or whatever. And that's a good thing. You live a life with a variety of experiences, challenges, and uncertainties. So it's a little paradoxical, and that is where you also know there's uncertainties. It's one thing to be controlling everything, that everything has to be certain, and it's another thing to live life where there's always just uncertainty. You accept that everything is exactly the way that it's supposed to be. You don't suffer. You don't hang on to things. You're able to practice law of detachment. You embrace how perfect you are now. Not when you lose weight, not when you have more money, but now. You continue to grow and learn new things. You are here to learn. If you're not learning new things, you're not growing, you're not really living. So therefore, there's going to be stagnation in how you experience life. You can laugh when you don't have all the answers. You don't beat yourself up. You enjoy life, and not only that, is that you attract other people who want to be able to share and teach you. It creates a great balance. You're aware that the goodness in your life will always change. And that means things might be going well right now, but you're not clinging to it. Life changes. And secondly, think about the things that you thought were fun when you were younger, 10 years ago. You probably would never enjoy them now. You have to allow change to happen. You let go of things, even if you love them, if this serves a greater good. And this could be someone you're in a relationship with, that he or she wants something different, and you realize that it's for the greater good. You have a sense of self beyond circumstances and change, meaning that you're able to see yourself as the observer, that you don't get caught up in the drama of like what's going on. Of course, you have human drama. We still have that, but you're able to rise above it. You don't run from pain, but welcome it with awareness and then let it go. It's what I shared in this video here. And that is, you see something like I mentioned with the kidney stone, and then you let it go. And I also realized that because I let that go in a process of the pain, I was aware of all the anger I was hanging on to regarding the divorce I was going through. You have the ability to offer value to another person on a daily basis. And I feel as though unless a person, you need to basically offer value. It could be just a smile to someone. It could be opening a door. It could be calling up a friend and telling him or her that you're great. Thank you for being a friend. When you're able to offer value, it makes your life feel rich. People who do not do that, they feel separated, because I feel that we're on this planet to connect to others. We all are a community. So when a person's not offering value, they usually feel like they don't belong. You need to feel significant to yourself and to another person. And that means, I know I'm going there, but it made me think of this. There have been those who've committed suicide, or those who actually have shot people and then killed themselves. This is my belief, okay? I feel as though that if you feel significant to another person. Like you matter, you being here, you existing here, you feeling that connection, that love, you would not ever commit a horrific act. You wouldn't do things that can hurt other people. And also you would never take your own life. Every person has to feel significant to at least one person. One person. So important. You have a positive philosophy of life or spiritual connection. And it's why I mentioned here that you know that you're here for a reason. You know why you exist. You have the tools and resources to problem solve. You have what I'm teaching here. You maybe have a coach, but you have something to help you work through the challenges in life. You understand with love that you cannot help everyone. Now, I mention this because there are those who somehow they're givers, they're always a caregivers, and they never receive. Their life is not balanced, or it's people who feel guilty because they're not able to help someone. And when you come to this acceptance, it doesn't mean that you say, oh, he's on his own. It's where this is what I can do. I can hold him in prayer or whatever it is that you do, but you don't allow that toxic energy to take you down. You accept that you only could do so much. This person has his own path also. You forgive yourself for every choice that hurts another person. And what I mean by that is I heard people, this very now moment while I'm sharing this webinar, I have had a challenge and a person feels like I did something or there's a miscommunication, whatever it was. But you cannot help from somehow triggering another person. That's why you're here. We're basically a bunch of diamonds in a rough and smoothing out each other. The best thing you do is hear that person, hear what they have to say, and take that in. See how you can improve or let it go. That's all you can do. But you can't live your life by trying to make everyone happy. Number 18, you're comfortable with knowing that some people will not like you. You're not here on this planet to be liked by everyone. That's okay. You probably don't like everyone either. That's okay, all right? You have the ability to receive from others, to be a receiver, like I mentioned as a caregiver. You experience life where you're able to give and you receive. There's reciprocity. You embrace feminine expressions and masculine expressions, meaning that you're able to live a life with yin and yang. If you are a man and it's just all about, doing, being in action mode, your life is not balanced, okay? If you are in complete feminine mode and you're not able to build something for yourself or being your masculine, sometimes your life is not balanced. It's about embodying all the spectrums of masculine and feminine energy. So I want to get to talking about your purpose now a little bit more. We're going to do an exercise. So the law of Dharma, or purpose in life. And this part of this was in the book from Deepak Chopra, the 7 spiritual laws of success. I'm going to read this. The law of Dharma says that we have taken manifestation in physical form to fulfill a purpose. Each of us is here to discover our true self, to find out on our own that our true self is spiritual, and essentially we are spiritual beings that have taken manifestation in physical form. I love that. So we all have a purpose here. There's a reason why we exist. And more and often, especially with clients, when they're looking to figure out what their path is, or they're thinking about maybe, finding another career, they think that that's it. Like, for example, I'm here to work for a nonprofit and do volunteer work or whatever it is. My work is not my purpose. My work is an extension of my purpose. It allows me to be creative, help others, learn through the process, and live a happy life. So the reason why I say that, just imagine if a person were to say, you're a horrible coach, would I fall apart? Or if business were slower, would I fall apart? It's an extension. I'm still in a creative flow of it. So I'm living my purpose. My purpose is what I just shared, is just to be creative, to love, to grow, to expand. And my business is a vehicle to allow me to learn about myself the best. I mean, I get to work with people such as yourself. So we're going to do an exercise called Finding Yourself. And so what I'd like you to do is make sure you are in a place where there's no distractions. We're going to go through this a little quickly. And again, you can pause the video if you like to allow yourself to go through this experience a little bit longer. So when I do this exercise, what I like to do is actually do it in nature. I like to do it sitting up against a tree or by the beach or in the mountains. And if you live in a city, of course, you can find a park. And it's not necessary. It's just what I feel is, though, when I'm in nature, vibrationally, I connect back to my nature, okay? So what I do is I close my eyes, and you can do this with me. I would like you to close your eyes. And ask yourself, who am I? Why do I exist? What is my purpose? Am I living in alignment with my purpose? Have I fully allowed myself to be loved and to love another? Have I conquered my greatest fear in this lifetime? If I were to die today, would I be content with how I live my life? I'll ask those questions again. Who am I? Why do I exist? What is my purpose? Am I living in alignment with my purpose? Have I fully allowed myself to be loved and to love another? Have I conquered my greatest fear in this lifetime? If I were to die today, would I be content with how I live my life? Now keep your eyes closed, and I'm going to add something to this. And this is the way to really get clear with it also. And sometimes it's alarming because you realize that you're not living in alignment. It's a process I do with my clients. And what I do is I have them imagine two different things. Best case death scenario and worst case death scenario. And that means that what they do is they imagine themselves at their funeral and hearing other people talk about how they live their lives, exciting, passionately, how they made great cookies or whatever. And they basically were in alignment with why they were here. And then the worst case would obviously be where the person died unhappy, never climbing Mount Everest or whatever it is. It's just like the person was a complainer or whatever. My point of this is that sometimes bringing it to death allows you to kind of see, like, wow, how would I like others to talk to me? How would I like others to really see how I lived? And then bring it back to those questions again. Who am I? Why do I exist? And this exercise, is to elicit your truth. So if nothing comes, that's actually your answer. If you're lost with this, that's actually your answer. And it is to sit with that until an answer comes and then act on that. So some people talk about, having a bucket list, making sure that you do all these things. And I actually think that's great. Like, I haven't done all the things on my bucket list. But one thing that I am doing is I am walking my path. So regardless if I jump out of an airplane or visit a particular country, happiness really is about awareness. And awareness is really about being connected to your intentions. And your intentions are really about being connected to your purpose. They all work together. This is what this webinar is about. So, more and often people, they think about happiness being when they get something. I'm not sure when you, before you watch this webinar, you thought that I was going to give you something linear to do. I'm giving you something that's going to connect you to real happiness. I've actually worked with people who are very well off and unhappy, and with people who are actually successful and happy. And it's really about awareness. It's about how mindful they are and how they're living their lives. I want to conclude this with something, and that is this, okay? I'm going to read this. To fully embrace the law of attraction is to accept that no matter what, you have created everything that is inside and before you. There are only 3 choices you have as far as observing life and circumstances. You continue to suffer because you feel victimized and disempowered by your circumstances. 2, you live life through default and allow life to define you. 3, you accept everything as it is and you can act upon it consciously. So it's something I really want you to take into your body. So this is what we covered so far in this webinar, and we're going to close here. And that is, we talked about why happiness first. Why choose happiness first? We talked about how it's a precursor to true happiness, meaning awareness is a precursor to true happiness. Being aware of things right now. We understand now what mindful awareness is, and we did an exercise so we could become more mindful, which allows us to be more aware. We've also have talked about learn how to let go of suffering. What that is about, like what creates suffering, the art of allowing, the law of detachment. We now understand the power of now. We also understand about intentions and how we need to check in with ourselves about, if what it is that we want is connected to love or fear. We also did an exercise on that. I also shared the 20 principles to attract the life that you want, like principles that I really tried to live by. I never feel like a victim, never do. And I've had stuff happen where it looks like it's happening to me, but because I live these principles, I don't get caught up into the victimhood of it. Okay, I'm able to let it go. We did an exercise. We now understand the law of Dharma, your purpose, and we did an exercise for you to find yourself, to understand what that means, and to continue to fortify that, whether you are able to do it now with me in this webinar or later on. So thank you for joining me on this webinar, and I look forward to continuing to work with you.